Despite Supergirl's brief moments of fun, bombastic action, and genuinely well-acted scenes of drama, the second installment in DC's new universe fails to pack any sort of punch. But before explaining why I think that is, I want to start by declaring I will not be comparing this to the comic. Having that incredible story in the back of my mind just wasn't fair to the narrative this movie was trying to tell. Of course, they kinda marketed it with the comic front and center, so they were kinda just asking for that, but just for the sake of attempting to keep this as constructive to the film as possible, I'm going to look at it divorced from the source material. Nevertheless, that doesn't save it from criticism. It's not particularly funny, the action isn't particularly good, the music choice is odd to forgettable, the cinematography is bland, and worst of all, it didn't make me feel anything, which is weird, because there's some heavy subject material and obvious character arcs that are there to be delivered on, but never quite get there. Yet I know that within this is an incredible experience, which means that this comes down to an editing problem. I could go wider and look at how the story should have kicked off 100% in Ruthie's point of view, with her as the guiding force in the narrative throughout, and Kara slowly becoming a co-protagonist, and really going full True Grit with it. But nah, because I know that with a few tweaks, heartfelt and poignant highs could have been hit, rather than just tiptoed into, or not getting there at all. But to say one positive before I get to spoilers, though the alien planets all started to look like the same quarry the Power Rangers fight in, I actually liked the choice for the sets themselves to have a dirty and grimy aesthetic, throwing in some amazingly weird practical aliens too, making the universe feel lived in and reminding me of the good old days of grungy Star Wars cantinas. I mean, I kinda get sad when I picture the fantastical visuals we could have gotten, but I'm not comparing it to the comic. Yet, and you might find this surprising considering this video mainly just trashes the movie, I still had fun with it and would recommend you check it out if you have an uneventful weekend. And I'm only this disappointed because I had high hopes Supergirl would be a mature and theatrical masterpiece, cementing the DCU in the annals of history. But now that's up to Clayface, which I've always been clear has been my most anticipated movie of the year, so my soul isn't crushed that Supergirl didn't deliver for me, but if Clayface doesn't, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But anyway, spoilers. First off, aesthetically, since I just mentioned that, I think compared to the grunge of space, they attempted to make Earth at the end very clean, but it came across as unnaturally sterile, with it not even looking like Clark's apartment from the movie we saw a year ago. Plus, at the beginning, when Krem and the Brigands are introduced, Ruthie's parents just say they're going after our swords, and if we give them what they want, they'll leave. Like, come on, you don't want to have that scene unfold organically and let us figure that out? Luckily, that level of bad writing isn't really seen again, but to have that early on was kinda rough. And also pretty harsh, but straight up, cut Lobo out of this. Unless he's going to be a part of the group for an extended period of time, and they follow through on Ruthie being pulled between Lobo's direct brutality versus Kara's virtuousness, he just doesn't add anything. And by getting rid of him, the story doesn't change at all. In fact, that allows for more screen time and focus on those that matter. I don't think Krem is necessarily fixable, being more forgettable than anything, despite them having a horrifying plot point, wanting to make it Mad Max and adding kidnapped and trafficked wives. Yet instead of letting the atrocious reality of that set in, it all ends up feeling like a plot device, and thus a little icky. As well as that, when fighting Krem, Supergirl is constantly depowered, which isn't the wrong choice, as someone that ridiculously strong needs some tricky writing, and attempting to build up to a final moment of expressive action, a la What's Up Danger, is the right call, but for reasons I'll get to, it just didn't work for me, and isn't even necessary given there's a bunch of people out in the infinite universe that can match a Kryptonian's strength. Also, side note, I enjoyed the scene of Kara going up into the atmosphere to scream, and the fun Easter egg to the artist for Woman of Tomorrow, Bilquist Evilly. But all in all, there are 2 moments I want to look at to dissect what it is that I found unsatisfying: the cave scene and the final goodbyes. Because Kara finds herself being taken care of by Ruthie on a planet with a kryptonite sun, without the imaginative giant monsters roaming around, but I'm not comparing it to the comic. Even though Superman couldn't survive there and had to be rescued by the Justice League, but I'm not comparing it to the comic. It's taking everything in me to not compare Krem to his comic counterpart, so I shouldn't compare anything else as well. But here, Ruthie brings Kara her suit, thinking it'll help her heal. And I believe that if they had held off on any of Kara's flashbacks of her past until now, it would have given the audience that emotional beat when we needed it most, and made Kara's choice to now wear the S mean something, with the message of Supergirl leaning into its takeaway of "you may not be nice, but you're good." Kara doesn't wear the S because she's a Girl Scout like Clark, and it's almost out of character for her to be donning such a garish outfit, but she knows that it's the best way to do good, which is there in the movie, but I wish it's what I walked away with, not what I wanted more of. Regardless, Kara puts on the suit, there's some so-so action with fun moments, a weird needle drop, and not a lot of stakes. But let's flash forward to Ruthie and Kara's final goodbyes to each other, the swan song of their adventure. And as they're talking about how much they now mean to each other, I'm thinking to myself, why don't I care about this? Maybe I'm just heartless, but I'm excited to see Supergirl again in Man of Tomorrow, and on the whole, I enjoy her character. But when Kara tells Ruthie that she's glad they met, and because of their journey, she's going to get her act together, I'm left asking myself, why? Why did this particular adventure change her? Why is she done drinking and going back to Earth to be a superhero like her cousin? Is it because Krypto almost died? As a dog owner, I get that, but for the movie itself and for Kara's character, I honestly don't know. I assumed we were building up to a realization that despite trauma-induced cynicism, optimism can still shine through, but instead we were left with a movie that juggles the themes of survivor's guilt, not having a place to call home, responsibility, and wanting to keep innocence alive, but ended up falling flat on too many fronts for me to call this a success. In any case, what did you think of Supergirl? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe for weekly video essays and reviews, and enjoy a delicious sandwich.